The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, NXT Review.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to another great edition of Wrestling to the Max's NXT review for not only March 28th, but April 4th as well. We got two great episodes of NXT to talk about tonight on one special show. We are so excited about it. We want you guys to know this is a crazy episode because we are having to compact everything. But of course, before we start all that, I am, of course, your host, Gary Vaughan, and along with me is Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
Not only is it a crazy episode because we're doing two shows, but it's also a double go-home for WrestleMania.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's been crazy. And just to pre-warn everybody, if you hear banging and things in the background, maybe a little bit more of an echo than usually, I am actually recording in a room that has been painted, and behind me is a construction. So the reason that is because, well, I have a new set of family members joining our family, twins to be exact, and I have family working in the other room trying to get this thing going, and I had to sneak off and record, and I wanted to make sure we got the show done. So I apologize for any extracurriculars you may hear. You may even hear my daughter in the show. Hopefully not. But yeah.
With you having twins on the way and Paul being busy and everything, Harry and myself may have to do all three shows consistently.
I know. You guys have definitely done a bang-up job. I'm so happy that you guys have been on board and working really hard. And, you know, our entire Wrestling to the Max family works really hard. And when some of the guys can't be there, there's other guys like you and Harry that really do excellent. So it's nice. It definitely helps me sleep at night knowing that the shows get done and get done very well. So I'm really happy for that. And, you know, this has been so much fun doing NXT. And like you said, these shows we're about to talk about really are the go-home shows. And they were kind of fun because of that. So I am really excited for NXT TakeOver New Orleans. I know you are, Brandon. It's going to be a fun show. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Brandon, it'll probably be me and you at least doing the TakeOver show. I'm hoping Sean will join in. I don't know what Sean's schedule is, but I would hope on Saturday night following that show we can get involved and get that show out there for everyone. So be looking forward to that, everyone. If you're listening right now and you're wondering if we're going to do one, we are going to do one. And I'm really hoping that we're going to be getting that done Saturday night. That'll be available Sunday morning for everybody. So before you watch WrestleMania, check out that and just get your, a whole day of wrestling in. And the best way to go find all that, of course, once again, just to make sure you know, W2Mnet.com is the website that you're going to want to go find us at, as well as go check us out on iTunes, Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, heck, wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you go hit that subscribe button over at the W2M Network. Once again, that is the W2M Network. And make sure you go hit that subscribe button, rate and review while you're over there. That'll do us a little bit of a favor and give you a little bit of opportunity to have some feedback that you want to give us. And also, we have some friends over at 411mania.com and lastwordonprowrestling.com. We always love to give for those guys because they are so awesome. They do a great job and they support us, and we make sure we support them back. So go check out those sites as well. Well, Brandon, let's get this thing going, man. Are you ready to talk some NXT?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start this thing off by talking about that March 28th episode that we have yet to cover. And that, of course, starts out with Johnny Gargano showing up to NXT to get things going. But as he's exiting the car and all that stuff, he has an NXT crowd on his back, man. They are all over him, yelling at him, saying things about him.
I think you mean Tommaso Ciampa.
Who did I say?
You said Gargano.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Look at there. I'm already screwing this thing up. You're right.
You're jumping the gun already. He does appear.
He does appear. You're right. I have Gargano in the brain, though, man. But okay, so you're right. Tommaso Ciampa is the one that people hate, not Gargano. God's sakes, Gary. So yes,
those just contrarian, just for the sake of contrarian fans, are getting to your head there.
That they really are getting in my head. Not only that, the construction behind me right now is really screwing me up. Anyway, so so Ciampa is really not happy with this, and he goes up to William Regal outside and says, "Look, this is not fair. I sent him packing along with Cena almost did really the job there, but he says, why are people still yelling all this? I got attacked. It's not fair that I get attacked. He doesn't work here. This guy should be banned." And William Regal sets in place an opportunity, and that opportunity is for Ciampa to get rid of Gargano forever, and that's by having a match at NXT New Orleans. So that is put in place at this stage of the show. I think all of us kind of knew that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you know what, and I actually kind of like this, Brandon, because we start the show off with something that people are kind of curious about. Like, what is Ciampa going to say? Is he going to complain? And he sure did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we kind of saw it coming that he would complain about Gargano jumping him the week before. This whole thing, the one thing that's kind of interesting, and I hope they kind of clear this up. I know most of the time it does mean it, but some of the times, like, maybe it'll technically mean it, but they won't actually really use it properly. But when Regal made this match, he said it was an unsanctioned match, which I would assume means no DQ, no count out, all of that jazz. I hope that, tomorrow or Saturday afternoon, we get some sort of clarification that, yes, in fact, it is no DQ, no count out, all of that. And they actually use it, because this is definitely a feud. This has been a very bitter feud between the two, and multiple toys have been used already in their interactions. And I would think that it's definitely warranted on this show. And, I mean, this may be a little more of a pipe dream, but then again, NXT has done it in the past. So, sometimes I think it may have been done the hard way, but this is a feud that I definitely think deserves a little color.
Yeah, it really does. And you know what? Paul has said it in the past, and I think you'll totally agree with this. I think people are ready and excited about seeing that Psycho Killer.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the best way to get it, is by getting that color that you're talking about. And not only that, seeing all the violence that'll ensue. I think you're going to get some Psycho Killer, and I think you're going to get our Johnny Gargano that is so ready to get this thing taken care of and just really put Ciampa down to where he needs to be, and that's to the mat. So I think we're really going to have something special here, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be super exciting to kind of cover and talk about, because I know we're going to have plenty to say. Gargano always shows up, and I know Ciampa, he's one of my favorites. He'll do the same.
But, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm sure, like we saw during the Cruiserweight Classic, even if it's just a regular match, it will be a great match between these two. But like I said, I am going to be a little disappointed if this is just a pure wrestling match. Because this feud deserves so much more.
Oh, I totally agree. You're exactly right on that, and I think you will get it. I have a hard time believing you won't, because I called it last week or the week before. It's a blood feud. It really is. They're out for blood. They're not out for wins and losses, right? This is about blood. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll get it. We also have William Regal starting out the show as well by talking about the new championship. That's right, the North American Championship that NXT is going to be unveiling there at New Orleans. And they're going to have a big matchup here for everyone. It's going to be really exciting. But EC3 makes his first appearance on NXT television and comes out and makes his claim that he should be the first one, and really basically does what he has done in TNA before, and that's say that William Regal should just hand it over to him. Mm-hmm. So which is kind of funny, and it's very EC3. I love it. I think that they're doing very well at this early stage with him, at least by that promo standards. And this, of course, creates a situation where you've got a lot of people stating their case why they should be that first champion for the North American NXT Championship. What did you think about the whole thing with EC3 and this whole segment?
Do you want to just talk about this segment alone, or are we also going to talk about the various segments about the championship throughout the night?
You know what? Why don't we go ahead? So
Okay.
go ahead and fill in the blanks here and kind of tell me what you really like about all of it.
Okay, well, first off, the original segment with them revealing the North American Championship, it was a good way of handling it. And then the whole EC3 thing, I mean, it's classic EC3. Him coming out in the blazer and everything. And, really playing up this whole 1% thing and all of that. Probably the funniest moment of this was more. I think it was after the whole segment was over. Morrow saying, "I asked earlier what EC3 meant," and I forget exactly what he said, but they're completely disregarding his whole name prior and just keeping the acronym.
Yeah, and I wish I remembered what it was. I cannot remember it all now, but it was pretty neat, but kind of cheesy too.
Yeah, it was really cheesy. It was kind of a tongue-in-cheek of everyone who's in the know knows what it means, and for those of you who don't, you don't need to know, pretty much.
Yep. Yeah,
but
that really is the case.
Yeah. But then it was kind of cool, but at the same time kind of awkward at the same time how they kept on doing these weird backstage segments of Kathy Kelly coming around and asking, or what is it? I don't think it's Kathy Kelly. I forget who the backstage person is for NXT.
Yeah, I've already forgotten her name. I know who you're talking about.
Caruso or something.
Yeah, I think that is it. Yeah.
But with her just continuously coming back and keep on asking William Regal for updates on who has been added. The first one worked because you had both Adam Cole and you had both Lars Sullivan and Killian Dane right there, and they were kind of having this whole face off, and William Regal put them both in there, and then the Adam Cole one worked. But then I forget who the fifth. I know who the fifth person is, but I forget who the fourth one was that was added.
Now that you're saying that, I'm trying to think myself. Painting that picture in my head, I know EC3, Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan,
Adam Cole. The one that I haven't mentioned, that's the last one that I want to mention at the end. But then there's
there's another one. It's a sixth man, right? So it's, oh my goodness, how are we not remembering this?
Oh, I know who it is, and I know exactly why I forget about him, because I'm not exactly his biggest fan. It's the Velveteen Dream.
Yes, and you know what? It's funny we both forgot that, because I will say this: the little promo that he cut about why he should be involved in this was actually not bad.
It wasn't bad, but it was kind of that was the one that was kind of they kind of just threw it out there randomly, and then Carissa came around, and William was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, he's in." But then the last one, while it was annoying how they kept on having her do it over and over again, and it kind of felt awkward after a while. But the last one, the way they handled it was perfect. Because, it was that big reveal of Ricochet, and it was great that they had the crowd mics up.
Oh yeah.
For when they revealed Ricochet, and they absolutely went berserk, as they should. So that was great to see Ricochet. We'll talk about him later on the next show as well. But I'm hoping they do something similar, or have some sort of surprise with their other big New Japan signing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or dual signing, shall we say.
Yeah, dual signings, and it would be so nice to get a chance to see them in action. I think when we're talking about New Orleans, we'll see those two guys at least sitting at ringside.
Well, I don't think we'll see them sitting at ringside, because didn't we saw them at Philly already.
We did see them at Philly, but it makes you wonder if they're going to have them get involved. and
That
maybe
could be
have.
true.
Mhm.
They could show them sitting at ringside ahead of time and then have them jump in during the tag title match. That's true.
That because it makes me wonder if what we're talking, because we'll talk about it in the next
Yeah.
episode. I'm trying to get ahead of myself, but
Yeah.
there's something in store that could change and make it even bigger and badder. So let's save that. But
Yes.
you're right, and talking about the 6 guys we just talked about, which is kind of funny. We forgot Velveteen Dream, but this has been 2 weeks ago now, basically.
Yeah.
So forgive us, we're
But
not
also,
just fresh on this.
But also, I feel like while yes, they have been pushing him, and they were pushing him, back during Philly and during when did he had that whole the Say My Name match against Black at what was it, Houston or wherever
Yeah.
Survivor Series was.
It was.
Yeah. So, but since then, they haven't really done all that much with him. So that's why you kind of forget about him.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't see him in many multi-man matches either, so that kind of puts him in a different realm also.
Yeah.
We usually see him in singles action for the most part. So, but still, I think he's relevant here. I think he's perfect for this title. He's one of those guys. I think everybody involved in this match is going to be perfect for the North American Championship. So, I think.
Are we gonna do predictions after we go through both?
Heck, why not? Let's do it. Well, so after we go through both, we'll go ahead and give you our predictions for NXT TakeOver New Orleans, and then that sounds great. We'll do that. So, but yeah, so that sets up that whole picture. So we'll kind of leave a little bit more meat on that bone when we predict everything. Let's move on and talk a little bit about something else that happened in the show that was very relevant, and that is, of course, the Dusty Rhodes Classic that they had. And so that meant that the Authors of Pain got involved, and they had their matchup against none other than, let me see here, I'd have it, none other than the Street Profits, who people really, really, have been behind. They're really great, when it comes to the babyface role for the tag team division. And it's one of those things where I was really, really curious if the Authors of Pain were going to lose this matchup, only for the fact that the Street Profits have been really, I'll be honest, really fun to watch and just very, very entertaining. And I thought, man, this would be a great opportunity for maybe this, Authors of Pain move on to the main roster if they are going to. Yeah. So we get this matchup, and it's a decent matchup, but let's be honest, the Authors of Pain pretty much ruled this entire match, and they got the victory, and it really didn't take them that long. I don't know what I want to think about that.
I'm honestly very disappointed because, like we talked about, and we'll talk about it later, because, there's more stuff in regards to this in the next episode. And moving forward into TakeOver, but, all signs would seem to point that Authors of Pain are ready to be called up to the main roster, and especially, especially like Raw needs a tag team, needs some sort of tag team injection to get that division back up and running. Although, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I will continue to say it until I am proven wrong. For the women, I've been at least somewhat proven wrong with Asuka, because they've actually been using her correctly, and Charlotte they've been using well. But especially on Raw, I do not want any more tag teams from NXT being called up, because they get destroyed. Something happens, either, they break them up, or they don't use them at all, or someone gets injured and they lose hope on them, what have you, whatever. Something always seems to happen that destroys their momentum. So, while in just purely thinking about it on a, storytelling level and on a level of, do they deserve it, and are they ready? They should, and to get more teams that are competitive on Raw, they should totally be getting called up. But, I'm still wary if they do. But in terms of this match, it's kind of a bad sign for the NXT tag team division moving forward beyond the Superstar shakeup, assuming we have one post-Mania again. And assuming that Authors of Pain and maybe, Sanity get called up. It's a bad sign when you're having your most popular tag team outside of them, and really one of two, in my opinion, one of only two relevant tag teams in NXT right now outside of Authors of Pain and Sanity, getting squashed. That's not a good look on your whole division.
Yeah, I agree. And, when you look at that, you kind of think to yourself, well, now what are we supposed to think about the Street Profits and, some of these other teams that you mentioned? And you still think to yourself, well, they're not as good as that other team. And, it really kind of bugs me because I really honestly do like a lot of these teams in NXT. A lot of these tag teams have really kind of shown themselves to be very valuable and actually have good matches. And now we're sitting here having to regroup, and maybe that's the whole plan. Maybe they want us to just kind of clean the slate and then start over again, and maybe the Street Profits will be one of the featured teams, and TM61 will be another featured team, and they can just continue on from there. I just hate that it's for the fact that you've got other teams that'll probably be moving on, or at least one, and they still look like, they're killers, which is great, but I would at least love a fake injury or something like that to cause the Authors of Pain, just to put the Street Profits over a little bit here.
I mean, to be fair, I just thought of something that kind of goes completely counter to what I just said, but it still does make sense. If you think about it, if you're thinking about it in the sense of, what NXT is supposed to be for WWE, both in a kayfabe and in a real sense, which is a minor league promotion. It's basically supposed to be like AAA. If you have a team that's ready, or, going to a baseball terminology, if you have a player that's ready for the majors, they're going to be dominating those players that may be ready for the majors in a year or two, but aren't ready quite yet. But then once that player gets called up, then those players that are still down in AAA are going to be looking better as a result in that system in AAA. So if you think about it, once Sanity and once Authors of Pain get called up, then hopefully, although you have to think about it, you're going to have War Machine then coming in and taking that top spot, but maybe, hopefully, Street Profits and Heavy Machinery will get more of that push, more of that opportunity when the big dogs are gone.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right on that. I think the only issue is WWE as a whole. It's sad to say this, but they don't respect NXT, I think, to that extreme level. And to the essence of Triple H, I'm sure he does, but I think anybody else in that executive office looks at NXT and says, I don't care what their storylines are. We want this team, and whoever. Or do we just want this guy, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like Elias. Remember, Elias was not exactly lighting the world on fire in NXT. They just said, we want that guy.
Yeah.
And so
I completely get that. But, I mean, especially with Triple H taking more of the reins on the main roster recently, I think that's going to start changing slowly but surely.
Yeah, and hopefully so. Going back to the developmental system, and like you mentioned, the American Baseball and AAA, they do look at those guys and see how they're working out and all that. And I would love to see them use storyline to branch out to the main roster. So basically what I'm saying is I'd love to see in Monday Night Raw or on SmackDown them say the Authors of Pain were this many champions, they did this and this and this. A lot of times they just say, oh, this is a great tag team from NXT, whatever. And that's about it. They've mentioned them like one or two times, and after that, you're supposed to forget they were ever a part of NXT. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, the only person that changes that, but that's only because of the streak, is Asuka.
Yeah, you're right. That's the only reason. If it wasn't for the streak, that would also be a non-factor.
Yeah.
So, but the Authors of Pain do move on in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. We'll talk about them as well next episode. So let's move on and talk a little bit about another matchup that they had here on this show. And they had Lars Sullivan take on John Silver, and that doesn't matter because, well, you know what happened.
Squash.
So, yeah, you don't even have to watch the show. Squash, you're right. So Sullivan wins.
I mean, when you hear a name that makes you say "who," then you know it's a squash.
Exactly. I almost didn't really want to even mention it, but I thought it was relevant. But they really did this to kind of show Sullivan's dominance, and not only that, to really push the fact that they've really established a lot of the other guys going for the North American Championship. They want to establish Sullivan a little bit more. I think they really wanted people to see him.
Was this before or after, or did they do it like right after the match, where like he called out Killian and set up the match for the next episode?
It was right after. He goes back to William Regal after the match and says, I want to face Killian Dane.
Yeah.
So that's where they got all that set up. You're right. But yeah, so that's really nothing really. Let's put Andrade Cien he basically went out there and took down Aleister Black. Just really heinous attack on, him. And that ambush, I would say, just shows that Cien Almas is really, in his frame of mind, really wanting to make sure that Aleister Black is not completely ready for him, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think when it comes down to it, we're going to see a definitely motivated Aleister Black. And I think also this is just to keep the whole storyline in front of us as they kind of move closer to this big match without giving too much away.
Mm-hmm. Which is one thing that WWE does, or that NXT does great, that the main roster doesn't do so well.
I agree 100% on that. You're right. So
too many matches, not enough segments.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So there you go with that. I think once again on our preview here, when we actually give our predictions, we'll talk more about this matchup. So we have Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne have their own match in the Dusty Rhodes Classic when they face Sanity, which is Dusty Rhodes, and of course his tag. Dusty Rhodes and Sanity, basically, which is Eric Young and Killian Dane.
No, I think
Wolf. Yeah. Sorry, Alexander Wolf. I don't know why I have Killian Dane still in my brain.
Because I mentioned him before.
You did, and not only that, I can't wait to talk about the matchup with Killian, with him and Lars. So, but yeah, so we have this Dusty Rhodes Classic. But what happens here is Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne go over. They get the victory here, and it goes back to what you mentioned earlier about sometimes how NXT tag teams get placed in a bad way, and I hate this for Sanity only for the fact that I really like the whole gimmick.
Yeah.
I like the guys in Sanity, but I will give them credit because Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne are just basically a really great mixed match team. I mean, these guys are basically technical killers, if you want to say it that way, because they can break your fingers, your back, and anything else that they want to.
Yeah, I mean, well, this was kind of the opposite of what I was talking about with AOP versus Street Profits, where the more established team that you were expecting, should be able to win this match very easily, suddenly is losing to a mixed match of a tag team. And I talked about it before on Raw, and I talked about it before on here. I think, what is up with WWE and their love affair with these mashup tag teams since 2016? Ever since the brand split started, Heath Slater and Rhino, Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins, Cesaro and Sheamus, Braun Strowman and whoever. Now Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne. When is the madness going to end?
You know what? It's a good question, and I don't know if it will.
I don't know if it will either.
We have to be honest with this whole thing. It's been successful in the past, and I think they're really trying to just throw things together to see if there can be another successful team. I mean, you can think about the New Age Outlaws. Really, they were never really supposed to be a strong team.
But
And
they clicked very quickly and created their own brand of, like, they created a whole team and a whole gimmick and everything very quickly. Same with Rock and Sock Connection. These ones, maybe it's just me looking too far into, like, how they started, but all of these teams just feel like they fall flat for me, just because, I mean, yes, the Bar, they have meshed a little bit, but I feel like it's very artificial.
Well, here's the thing, and you really got to think about this. The two guys I just mentioned, the New Age Outlaws, both had lots of charisma, right? Bro Dog, great on the mic, did whatever he wanted, got the crowd behind him. Billy Gunn, he didn't have to say a lot on the mic. He just had to be Billy Gunn, and people were ecstatic, right?
Same with Rock and Sock.
Exactly. Now let's look at the two guys here in NXT. You got Roderick Strong, who, let's be honest, doesn't really have that strong of a presence on the mic, and charisma is not his strong point. Pete Dunne, everybody loves him because he's a technical killer in the ring. Outside of that, though, he's not over exuberant. He doesn't exactly get crowd chants going unless he is doing things in the ring. People love him.
Bar.
You're exactly right. The same with the Bar. And I love Pete Dunne to death, and I think there's so much about him that screams greatness, but yet he does not have that connection with the crowd, at least verbally and through other charisma. So I think that's the difference now, and I think that's why you're exactly right. Some of these tag teams are falling flat as a mixed match team because they're not charismatic. I think if you had more charisma involved with both players, I think then you're having more of an opportunity to showcase a team that people are going to really want to get behind.
I'll agree with that, but I think another part of it too, at least for me, is that there's always one guy that, like, at least for all of the teams that have been created so far, there's always one guy that you may like, but the other one you're kind of like, nah, on. So you can't get invested behind the whole team.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think you saying that makes me think of Rey Mysterio and Batista. I mean, because, God, people love Rey Mysterio. Batista was there, and Batista did an excellent job, but you either love Batista or you kind of hated him, and maybe you just didn't care for Rey much, but you love Batista. So exactly. I think it's a win, lose, or win-win situation. Depends on how you look at it.
For all the teams, currently, I love Rhino because of his ECW stuff, but Heath Slater I'm not really much of a fan of. Love Sheamus, but never really got that huge into Cesaro. I love Roddy, but Pete Dunne's kind of meh to me.
Wow, see, we were opposite ends of the coin on those.
I figured as much.
I love Cesaro. Sheamus is, and then of course Pete Dunne. I'll back him any day. Roderick Strong, I just kind of think of Ring of Honor still, honestly. So, and I love Ring of Honor, but but yeah, I mean that's what's going on with this. But we do have this situation where now you have the Dusty Rhodes Classic finals on this next episode, and you've got two teams that are ready to hit it hard. So we'll talk about that pretty soon here. But I think what you have to look at here, and especially what we're talking about, is the fact that we have these teams, and a Dusty Rhodes Classic that I think was okay. But I wouldn't say so far it was overwhelmingly the best. I think the last time that they did it, it was really, really good. This time it's just, I don't know. This year I haven't really been super involved in it.
Well, I mean, things have yet to be seen. We'll see where things go from here. But, now correct me if I'm wrong, but, I mean, we've had, 2 or 3 Dusty Classics prior to this one?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember. I would have to actually look it up because it just seems like we've had 2, but I could be wrong.
But the other 2 have either established 2 singles guys as dominant threats, as in the first one with Balor and Joe, or it established a new team as a legitimate threat like with AOP. This year, it just doesn't, you have AOP who is already established, and then you have Roddy and Pete Dunne, who both of them, have already kind of shown their worth in NXT as singles guys. Unless you're going to have them become a new top tag team, you're not really doing anything for the brand as a whole in this tournament. You're not establishing that new face.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that, and I agree totally. It's really, one of those situations where you can't just be as great as you always were, right? And I think that's what we're looking at here. I think that the tag team division has been up and down, and I think the same with the Dusty Rhodes Classic. And I think it's still good. I don't want people to think I'm hating on it, but I kind of think there is sometimes, you're just going to have the better and the worse, and I think the storylines do have a lot to do with it. And from what you're kind of coming from too, and I totally understand your point. So. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait till, we see what they got coming for us next year, because there's another tag team that's going to be involved that if they stick around in NXT long enough, I can't wait to see what they do in this tournament. So.
And they're used to tournaments.
Oh, you're exactly right. So.
Maybe not this kind of tournament, but they are used to tournaments.
Yeah, they definitely, you're not wrong. You're not wrong on that. So, but yeah, so that pretty much, I think, wraps up the first episode, the March 28th episode. So that means that we can jump into this next episode of April the 4th. And this one gets a little bit, more heated up too, for the fact that, there's lots of things that are, kind of boiling up to NXT TakeOver. And it's going to be, once again, another episode that leads us down a path of finding out what the next opponents are going to be for what matches and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump into this one. Let's start off by talking about what the beginning of the show has to offer. And, here is, basically a situation where we get into where we're having some matches and some things that, I think really are filler, but they're still good. They still have a lot to give us and give us some interesting things. So we're going to start this thing out, though, by talking a little bit about the fact that, that 6-man thing we were kind of just mentioning a while ago really boils down, because we do have some situations where we have, I believe, well, let's just talk about this match first of all. I just got to bring it up.
Was that the first match, or I thought the Dusty Classic rematch?
The Dusty Classic's the first matchup, and we're going to jump into that one. But I want to make sure my notes were right on that before we jumped in. But yes, you're right. So the Dusty Classic does jump off at the start of this show, and we have AOP taking on Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne. And this is a matchup that actually, once again, looks pretty strong for AOP, because they come out and really they dominate some of this matchup because they kind of wear down Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne is not the same Pete Dunne as we usually get a chance to see in this matchup. I mean, he takes a beating. Finally, Roddy gets involved, and he's able to get things going a little bit here. And it's a matchup that, you're wondering, okay, so is the hot tag going to work out the way that they wanted it to? But, it still shows that the AOP is looking strong and doing their best to win this match. But guess what? It doesn't all end up the way that you want it to, because the Undisputed Era get involved. That's right. So you have Adam Cole and, of course, Kyle O'Reilly come down and try to really cause havoc. They beat up on all the guys. William Regal comes down the ramp and says, guys, so you thought that was the way you were going to get out of those tag title matchups on Sunday? Not going to work out, guys. I'm sorry. So all that means now is you are stuck with a triple threat. You have to face AOP and the tag team of Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong in a triple threat NXT Tag Championship match. And I think this is probably for the better. I think it's actually going to be fun, because whoever does win, like William Regal did mention, they win the Dusty Rhodes Classic, and they, of course, win the belt. So this is going to be really fun to talk about when we do our predictions. But what did you think about all of this?
Yeah, I mean, the match itself was pretty good until it got wrecked by Undisputed Era. And, I mean, you kind of saw that coming, where Regal was not gonna be putting up with Undisputed Era's you know what. So yeah, the bigger question here, and they mention it on the air, but I'm assuming that considering that Bobby Fish is Bobby Fish is injured. It's going to be interesting to see how Adam Cole handles doing double duty this weekend.
That's the thing, and we're going to talk more about that too, because we have, it looks like some options for Adam Cole here because of that situation. But yeah, I think what we get here is something that totally, makes sense to me, because you get everybody involved in the show. You get a better opportunity also to see how that they want to, do things. And when you got to fit everybody on a show, you've got to kind of pair up some of these matches into triple threats. Sometimes, like we're seeing in the North America Championship, you got a 6-way, and that's for a reason, right?
I just thought of something, and let answer this question first before I mention it in my predictions. And I know WWE rules change all the time, but in theory, could Adam Cole go on and recruit some other guys and have them join Undisputed Era, and through the Freebird rule have them compete, or have someone replace him?
See, and that's a theory I was going to throw out there. Let's go ahead and talk about this. So later in the show, we have Adam Cole approach William Regal and say, "This is unfair. You can't have me." And William Regal basically is honest with him and says, "You got 3 options. You can forfeit your titles, or you can have Kyle O'Reilly go out there by himself, or Adam Cole can forfeit his opportunity at the North American Championship and be in the Tag Championship match." That to me screams another member added to the Undisputed Era,
or another 2.
Well, I feel like that they could add 2 people, but I really feel like that one of the original tag team championship holders has to do it. I don't think the Freebird rule works for 2.
Yeah, you're probably right. Because I was thinking something, but then you're probably right. And plus, they wouldn't want to just push Fish or O'Reilly aside like that.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're looking at a situation where you'll probably have someone added, and they'll find their way around the rule, because there's no reason to take Adam Cole out of the other matchup. Adam Cole wouldn't want to be out of the other matchup. Yeah. So
the big question is who, though.
Well, to be honest with you, there's another Ring of Honor guy that's been sitting around in that NXT locker room for a long while.
Oh, Ono?
No, not Ono. And he's a big, tall mofo that used to kill people in Ring of Honor. Now I'm blanking on his name right now. But he was a big Ring of Honor guy, and I'll think about it later. But anyway, we were speculating that he was going to be a part of the Undisputed Era for a long time, when we were thinking Ring of Honor was going to have their own faction in NXT, remember? So,
the only one that I can think of is Ono.
Now, his big, I think it's he's American, but his background is Croatian, I think. But he's really big. He, my God, I cannot remember. He used to be with Truth Martini, if you remember.
No.
Okay, you don't remember that? Okay. Well, we'll think about it. I'm sure people listening right now are screaming it out loud at the radio, and they're like, "You idiots!" But I'm sorry, we haven't heard from him for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think he's been on NXT for the whole time that I've been watching.
Nope,
so.
He has not been on NXT television. They've actually been waiting to debut him. He actually gave a lot of money to the school shooting in Florida. And I see, once again, I cannot remember his name. You could probably look up wrestler donates money to the school shooting in Florida, and you'd probably find his name right there.
Probably.
So, but anyway, getting into this whole thing, we do have that opportunity for that 6-way to definitely stay the same, and of course the tag championships being different, only for the fact that I think they're going to find the next person. So, Well, we kind of talked about everything going on here. So now we're going to wait on the whole tag championship thing, see what's going to happen and all that. We move on in the show, though, and of course, we know we have an opportunity now to see what takes place with the rest of what's going on this roster. And what we understand to be happening is the fact that we're going to have, of course, some more interesting stuff with Ember Moon and the fact that she's going to have a big matchup with Shayna Baszler. And that's going to be something that people, are really looking forward to watching. And on this episode, they talk a lot about Ember Moon, but they don't actually have her in the ring or Shayna Baszler. They do have Kairi Sane. I see if I can say her name right. Kairi Sane. Is that how you say it,
Yes.
Brant? I don't know why, but I can never pronounce her name. She does have a matchup here, and really, honestly, it's kind of a squash too. But I think once again, that's another reason they're just kind of trying to show off some of their talent, right?
But I think this was the first time that we actually got. Well, Kairi and Shayna might have had a match on NXT. But besides that, I think this is the first time we've seen an actual match not being a squash between two people from the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah, I think you're right. But, it was a decent matchup, but really, Kairi Sane was the one they were really focusing on, right? Vanessa Bourne did, a decent job, and I think that they have things for the future but it really was not about her.
It
and
seems like they're really only focusing on, 4 people from the Mae Young Classic right now.
Mm-hmm. And they let some of the ones that they were going to work on leave.
Yeah. So, it's kind of weird how they're very quickly condensing that roster that they had.
Yeah. It really is kind of weird that they're doing that, and per se, but they are. And, it's the way they got to do it. I think they kind of overshot what they really could do. I think they had big plans, but they kind of overshot with that. So.
Well, especially we've talked about it before, and hopefully it's coming sooner rather than later, but especially with only having 1 hour of television time.
Yeah, exactly. You can only do so much with 1 hour of television. But I'll be honest with you, I kind of prefer to have it short and sweet. So, well, let's talk about Lacey Evans. She has a little promo here, and they're really just kind of interviewing her and asking her about different people. And really, honestly, it's just about Lacey Evans playing the debutante, kind of just putting people down and talking about the fact that she deserves an opportunity, not all these other people like Nikki Cross. It seems like this is something that they're just kind of showcasing. This is not going to be, I think, anything big for NXT TakeOver, but I'm glad at least they're giving Lacey Evans a chance here.
Yeah, this is definitely something of them just, basically having her talk down to pretty much everyone else on the women's roster and then her getting beat by them.
Yeah. So, no big deal there. Once again, it's just to give you an idea who she is and really showcase her outside of the ring. So.
But with them, if they actually want to do something with her, they're gonna have to actually have her. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but they're gonna actually have to have her win at least a few of these matches. Otherwise, you're gonna have the Bray Wyatt effect.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's what's gonna be. Someone staring you right in the face. So we'll have to see how that all shakes out. What we do have kind of shake out here, though, is we do need to let everyone know that Lacey Evans will be taking on Kairi Sane, which, honestly, that'll be showed next week on NXT. But if you do have a chance to go to NXT New Orleans TakeOver, you will actually get that on the kickoff show.
Okay, so that's going to be one of those matches that they tape at the kickoff for the next night. Or for Wednesday night,
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. And then you'll have the opportunity to see all that take place there if you are live. But yes, that'll be in store for us next week. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be a good matchup. So, but yeah, well, in this show we had a lot of recaps too, just to let people know. Tons and tons of recaps. So that's why there's not a lot here. But we do have one more match to talk about, and this is one that I wanted to jump too fast because I really have fun watching these guys in the ring because they're both monsters. Lars Sullivan takes on Killian Dane just like Lars wanted, and boy, what a back and forth. These guys are so strong, so powerful. really putting in the licks. It was just a lot of fun to watch. Sadly, it didn't get finished. Sadly, the other the other four guys involved in their big 6-man match decided they want to get involved in this and screw us over. This is
it's kind of what you expect.
It is, but it's the second time
I know
in a night that we have. So you get 3 matches on the show and same
only one finish.
Yeah. So, God. But here we are, and they showcase everybody. And I think the big deal is once again Ricochet is the last guy out. And, of course, the crowd goes nuts. And that's great because we all know Ricochet. We all know how important and how exciting this guy is. And, hey, I don't have a problem with it. But it's kind of funny. Last week, he was the last face you saw. And seemingly this week, Ricochet's the last face that you saw on NXT television, it seemed.
Yeah, let me talk about the little bit of a match that we got first, and then I'll talk about the aftermath. First off, it was great how, I think it was right when the bell rang, we got a hoss fight chant going. So, it's so funny how, all of these, guys like Jim Cornette and all of these, WWE specific fans want to say, oh, it's all high flying now. I don't like how we don't have any big men in wrestling anymore. If I'm not mistaken, one of the top guys on Raw is a behemoth. 2 of the top guys in NXT are behemoths. And probably one of the top tag teams in the world who is coming to NXT are also behemoths. The big men are not dead.
By far not dead.
But also, in terms of the ending and all of the run-ins, it's what you expect. It's what you expect with a multi-man match going into the pay-per-view. But like you mentioned, it's great to see the fact that Ricochet was the one out last. They gave him a special entrance and everything to get the crowd popped. And not only that, granted, this is NXT, so it's not the main roster where they, dumb everything down as much. But it was great that they showed maybe some of the, WWE only fans what he can do, some of his athleticism. They didn't show everything, but they did show his whole, jump off the rope into the knee position, or into the, half kneel position like him and Ospreay do. And they showed his athleticism. They showed what he's all about. So I like that they're keeping that. I like that they're keeping him true to what he is. Definitely hoping that they do the same with War Machine and don't just make them big guys, and actually allow them to continue to do moonsaults and everything. But, this was a good segment to, not only end the show and get everyone prepped for that North American title match, but also, showcase Ricochet and really get people behind him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, if you're a big fan of Ricochet, you are excited beyond measure. If you know nothing of Ricochet, you're really curious why that crowd goes wild, and you're also, really curious just about what the big deal is about him. Just as you see him, and you just think, oh, he looks like a regular guy. He looks like a decent, wrestler,
but then once you see him in the ring and doing all of his athletic stuff, you get drawn to him immediately.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so I think that's going to be the exciting part about this is once people actually get a chance to see him in the ring, they're going to know exactly why all these fans are cheering, why they're all going crazy. And it's just going to be a lot of fun, man. And so once again, I think making him the exclamation mark at both of these episodes at the end, it screams something to me. It really does.
It definitely does. That's a very good sign because it really shows that they're going to give him a push in NXT, which I think a lot of people, myself included, when he first came in, were very afraid of.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I mean, we kind of covered this episode of NXT, and I think it's time for us, Brandon, to start talking NXT TakeOver New Orleans and giving our predictions. So let's do it, man.
Let's
start. Yeah, let's start this thing off with one of the hottest matches that we're excited about. One that I think all the people out there that have been following NXT have waited up, I think, a year to see, and that's Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. And of course, once again, this match is unsanctioned, and this also is a match where Johnny Gargano, if he wins, he is reinstated in NXT. If he loses, he is banned from NXT forever. So there's a lot on the line for Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa is just doing it to get rid of Gargano. How do you think this one's going to shake out?
See, this one's a tough one to call for me personally, because on one hand, especially with how much this feud has been building and everything, and how behind Gargano the fans are and everything, you would think typical WWE storytelling, Gargano gets his win, Ciampa gets his comeuppance, all of that. But at the same time, with the whole stipulation, you're thinking maybe this is a way to send Gargano up to either 205 or to the main roster, wherever they're sending him. So it really all depends upon how they're feeling on Gargano and what their plans are for Gargano, which I'm not sure about. So I'm gonna say Gargano gets his win, and then maybe even then he still says, he comes back and says, yes, I won. I can come back to NXT, but I wanna do bigger and better, and goes up to wherever. So I'm gonna still say that Gargano wins this match.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's got to be the payoff. It just has to be. I'm a big Tommaso Ciampa fan. I really am. If ever anytime any wrestling show that I've ever covered on the W2M network, I've always said it. The thing is, though, for me personally, as much as Tommaso Ciampa still has to offer NXT and how much he has left to do there, Gargano's been there, done that. I think he has accomplished everything, and I think you would say that formula would mean Tommaso Ciampa needs the victory. I still don't think, though. I think it's not that way for this case. This has been something that Gargano has needed for a long time, a chance to reinvigorate his career and himself by getting the big victory, beating Tommaso Ciampa, and Ciampa will move on just fine. I think Ciampa will use it to basically turn into more of an angry guy and do even more dastardly deeds, go pick on someone else. I think Gargano will win. I think they won't say anything about it. They'll say he's reinstated, but I think what's going to happen is we're going to see him probably on Monday Night Raw. And then on one of the NXT, backstage things, he'll probably say, thank you, William Regal, for reinstating me, but I don't think I'm coming back. And
but
then
I got a better offer from Raw or something like that. But the only thing, and when you brought up that whole thing with Ciampa, not necessarily needing it, thinking about it, the win for Ciampa could make him even, more hated. I mean, he's hated enough in NXT because he got rid of Gargano once. Now, if he gets rid of him twice, he'd be the most hated heel in the company. So, I mean, in that sense, you may think that they go with Ciampa. This one is very hard to call. But I still think that Gargano does get the win.
And you know why both of us, I think, are even saying this, and I really think it's the truth, is if you have Gargano lose again, you look back in history on Gargano's career and you just say he's a nice guy, but he didn't do anything really in NXT.
He's lost all of his big matches.
Exactly. And I don't know that
he's the Bray Wyatt of NXT.
Yep. There you go. You nailed it right there. The Bray Wyatt of NXT. And I don't think they want that. So no. I think both of us at least are in the mindset that Gargano, you got to win this match. If you don't, Ciampa will get the edge for it, but it will really be a hindrance to him down the line. So let's move on to another big match, and this one's really exciting, and that's the North American Championship match that we have been waiting to talk about. And this was one that I think is just chock full of so much talent. It's so hard to pick. We got Adam Cole, EC3, Killian Dane. We also have Lars Sullivan involved in this, Ricochet, the Velveteen Dream, all these guys that have lots of potential going at it in this match. I have a hard time picking. I really do. To me, I would love to see EC3 win, only because I wanted him to come back and be strong. But Ricochet seems to be the standout favorite here.
See, it's very hard for me to choose, because on one hand you would think this could be their opportunity to showcase one of their newer guys, and then EC3 or Ricochet would be the favorite. But at the same time, you've got three other guys in this match who they've been trying to push consistently in NXT for the last, half a year, what have you. But they haven't won a title yet. So all three of those guys still definitely think they need that extra push. They need that title to solidify their place towards the top of the card in NXT. So this is a really tough one to call. I'm gonna have two picks. One, based on what happens with the other match that I'm sure we'll talk about next. If Adam Cole... Well, we still don't know if he's in the tag team match, does he actually get replaced by someone in the North American match? And if he does, who? But if he's in the match, which would, assumingly, that would mean that he's not in the tag team match, I think Adam Cole wins. Because I think he needs that title to really legitimize all of the things that he's been doing in NXT. But if he's not in the match, or he has to pull double duty or whatnot, I think I have to agree with you. I think they give, especially with how they've been pushing him on the last two NXTs going into this, I think Ricochet. I think they give the title to Ricochet right off the bat and just let him run with it.
Yeah, and the reason being is, we both, kind of talked about this earlier about him being the exclamation mark of the past two NXTs. And I think that screams something. Now, does that mean that they're going to do it? No, not necessarily. It may just mean that they want us to pay attention to him because he's never been in a match on NXT. Yeah. But they also want him to be, understood as a very relevant guy involved in a big match. And I think if I had another pick, if I really was going to sit down here and say, okay, who else do they really want to showcase? I think it's funny to say this, but I think Lars Sullivan's that guy.
That's the thing about this match is, I'd say 5 out of the 6 guys, excluding Velveteen Dream, which I think, yes, he's gotten some push, but I just don't think he's quite ready for a title yet. 5 of the 6 guys have a legitimate, you could make a legitimate argument that you could say he's going to win the title, and people will be like, yeah, that sounds like it makes sense. But the one thing I will say about Ricochet, if he does not win, I definitely think that, especially since it's a ladder match, you see some crazy high spot with him to show off his athleticism.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And it's going to be really fun to watch for all those reasons we're talking about here, because each of these guys involved in this match, heck, even Velveteen Dream, they all have some charisma. They all have something about them that really could mean something to the North American Championship. I really do. So that's the exciting part about this. I really love that we could sit here and say that, because some of these 6-man matches, let's be honest, we'll just say, you got like about 2 of them, and the rest of them you can just do without. I think all these guys I would love to see involved and have a really strong push to get that title. So let's see who wins. I think both of us, though, I think the early pick will be Ricochet. So
yeah, I think a lot of people, especially after the last 2 weeks, I think a lot of people's early pick is Ricochet.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to that match you alluded to, though, because we really don't know if it's going to be Adam Cole or if it's going to be someone taking his spot in the tag team championship matches. But let's just say right now, Adam Cole or whoever with Kyle O'Reilly taking on the Authors of Pain, Pete Dunne, and of course our little friend Roderick Strong. How do you think this is going to fare? Do you think that the Undisputed Era is going to be able to retain?
See, this is another one where there's that variable that you don't completely know about, so it's hard to pick. It's hard to figure out. I think if either, I think if Kyle O'Reilly has to go solo, then I don't think he retains. But if they get a partner, especially if it's a surprise partner, I could totally see the Undisputed Era retaining. I think if it's not the Undisputed Era retaining, I'm thinking it's Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne winning somehow. Because like we talked about it before, I think it's beyond time. We were talking about it last year. People were thinking that they were going to be called up after Mania last year, and it didn't happen. I think AOP gets called up this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do feel like that we will be seeing them on the Raw after WrestleMania. I really think that AOP is going to make a strong presence, and I think, with or without Paul Ellering, they're going to do some great things on the main roster. So I do not see them getting the titles just because of that reason. Yeah. I will say this though, it would not surprise me if Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne didn't take the titles home, because I think they have a strong presence. But as we sit here, the UK Championship still is with Pete Dunne. I don't know they're going to want him to hold two titles at the moment.
That's true, especially with the rumors of them actually making a UK show soon.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm thinking Undisputed Era retains somehow.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I think we got to look at that and just put that in perspective and say it's got to be the Undisputed Era. But once again, I think that if you really wanted to take that into consideration and say, hey, it would be so much fun to see this team win, that's the team that would be a lot of fun in Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne. So.
But I will say, kind of off subject, but still on. Once AOP gets called up, at least for the beginning, you don't have to have him stay around forever, but especially to endear him to some of the more casual fans who don't watch NXT, don't know them as well, but know about the history, know about the past, know about Legion of Doom. You gotta have Paul Ellering there, at least for the beginning, just to kind of connect them and have them be like, have some of the more casual fans be like, oh, they're legit. They have Paul Ellering as their manager.
Yeah. You know what? I think that could be the case, just because he does have that strong presence of being not only a legend, but, a guy that really just seems to work better with those guys than without Paul Ellering, you know? So we'll see how they shake that out and see if Paul Ellering even wants to make that, trek across the U.S. again or across the world. Yeah. I don't know that he's going to want to do that as much as, he's enjoyed being in NXT.
Still, it's not as big as the main roster is, but NXT still does do tours.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think he has to make the trek across the U.S. with them on those tours. You don't
think he goes to house shows?
Yeah, I've never been to an NXT house show in Florida or anywhere else in the States, but I just don't assume that. I don't know. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, hey, hit us up. Let me know. Say, Gary, you're wrong. Type that in and make me feel terrible. But I don't think that's wrong. But I do want to mention this also before we head out of this match. Donovan Dijak is the guy that I could not remember his name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, big, tall, strong guy that teaming up with Adam Cole.
The only thing about that, and this just shows, Adam Cole, granted to a lesser extent, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly are kind of in the same boat, but especially since he's been off of any TV for so long, I don't think that would be that great of a, because if you're going to do something with them having a new member, you would think it would be some sort of surprise. Bobby Fish coming in, like Bobby Fish and Adam Cole coming in and being like, oh yeah, we found another partner, and then his music hitting or something, So I just don't think his name holds enough weight, even among the more smarkier fans of NXT, even the Ring of Honor fans. He wasn't really used all that much in Ring of Honor. He hasn't been used in NXT at all yet. He hasn't been on any TV in like a year now.
Oh,
yeah. I just don't see that working. I think if they are going to do it, I think it would be either Ono or, I don't know if... actually, I just thought of one that's actually perfect. Because this would be a great way to get him on TV more. He's a name that people know. It's a guy that people want to see. And hopefully all of the crap with what happened in the past with Emma is done with him. Lio Rush.
I would love it. I love Lio Rush. I think a lot of the guy. So if he joins the Undisputed Era, trust
that
me,
would be
I will not
the
complain.
perfect pick. Either him or Ono. But I think the Rush pick would be better because of the pop, because he hasn't been on TV for a while.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, not a bad pick in my book. If he, definitely shows up, he's going to be one of my number one, reasons why I'm going to love the Undisputed Era even more.
That's my very optimistic pick. My very optimistic official pick now. Lio Rush joins Undisputed Era, and Undisputed Era retains.
All right. Well, there you go. So you got Lio Rush. I got Donovan Dijak. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it all shakes out. But I still feel like Undisputed Era will take their championships home. So, well, let's talk about the NXT Women's Championship match between Ember Moon, and she's got to defend that title against Shayna Baszler. And this is going to be one that I think will be, fun. It seems like it's in the distant past for some reason to me, but it's still here and it's still relevant. I looking at this, I don't know. Because I think Ember Moon's been a good champion, not a great champion, but I think she's been a solid champion. But I could see the title switching hands. I really could. I could see for some way somehow Shayna Baszler takes that title away from Ember Moon.
Yeah, that's the thing about this whole match is that, for one, like you mentioned, Ember Moon hasn't really been given all that much time to really be a good champion. She hasn't really gotten much TV time since she got the title, because they've been focused more on the new Mae Young Classic women in the women's division and building them up, and they've been mostly focused on Shayna Baszler and building her up. So Ember Moon really hasn't had much time to, be a champion. Not only that, but also, we already saw this match. And, while Baszler was dominant for most of the match, Moon was able to retain. Here, it seems like they're still trying to make Shayna Baszler very strong. I just feel like all of that effort is going to go to waste. No matter how strong you make her look, if Ember Moon is still able to, fight through it and win, then it's all a moot point to me. So I just, if they're really so hell-bent on making Shayna look strong and look this dominant force, you gotta have her win. And then go on like this, this reign of terror throughout the women's division.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Ember Moon's great. I think she has a lot to offer. I think the people on the main roster have a lot of optimism about what Ember Moon can do. And that's great news. That's really good for her. But I'll be honest with you. I think Shayna Baszler is moving up, and I think they want to see what she can do as a champion. And they really think a lot of her as well. So I think it's time.
And they're still probably holding out hope for a potential horsewomen match.
Yeah, exactly. They're probably waiting around to put that into place. Let's see if that'll ever happen, but that would be fun to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think both of us are picking Shayna, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the basically the main event of the show, and that is, of course, the NXT Championship match between Cien Almas and, of course, Aleister Black. And this is going to be fun. Of course, you'll have Zelina Vega on the outside trying to cause more problems, like always. But this is going to be a big, big matchup. I think it's going to be great. You know, if the NXT Women's Championship changes hands, does it really change my mind that they could change the title hands here? I don't know. You know what's kind of funny about this? I love Aleister Black. I think a lot of him. Heck, I really think he needs to hold the title. But something in my gut tells me that Cien Almas is going to cheat to win again.
Well, first off, let me mention this. And this just may be my own personal bias, but this should not be the main event. I think the Gargano Ciampa match should definitely be the main event.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of this match, the big X factor to me, because we already saw it before, is if Candice comes out with Black. If Candice does not come out with Black, then we basically get what we got between Almas and Gargano, at least the beginning part of it, and what we would have seen in lieu of Candice, which was a double team where Black can only fight one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then Ciampa, and then Almas retains through shenanigans. If Candice is out there, though, that nullifies that. And I think that'll... you can't have Black look this stupid. You just can't. If he's going to be one of your top faces of the company, you can't have him lose to, the sniveling coward Almas. So, if Candice is out there having his back and nullifying Vega, then we will have a new champion.
Mm-hmm. You bring up the great point of Candice and being a part of this whole thing because, Zelina Vega and her have that feud going on right now. And I think that could definitely be a big help to keep things even for Aleister Black. But I'll be honest with you, I think that still could be a hindrance. I could see Candice getting involved and making things a little bit more chaotic and still causing Aleister Black the match. And
I don't think so, because Black... And they haven't shown how he would react to something like this ever before. But Black, at least in terms of his persona that they've shown so far, seems like the type of guy that is going to be completely dead set focused on his one target. He's not going to get distracted by any sort of outside shenanigans unless it directly affects him. So if Candice is taking out Vega, that'll distract Almas, but then, that'll allow Black to set up Black Mass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it could go either way. I agree with you that he's going to be focused, but, it doesn't always shake out that way. No matter how focused you are, if someone pushes you or you get pushed into somebody, things always do have a way of turning on their head, So, here's the thing, and this is very honest. I want Aleister Black to hold the NXT Championship. Yes. I'm a huge Aleister Black fan. I think the world of the guy. He's got so much talent. The one thing, though, that kind of bugs me is the fact that I've loved this run that Cien Almas has had. I think that it has been special. I think Zelina Vega has definitely helped that along. I think that the title around the waist of Cien Almas is not bad. So him holding it a little longer does not hurt my feelings at all. And Aleister Black is going to be okay even if he loses.
See, I'm the exact opposite, but that's because, and I'll be the first one to admit, I'm a complete mark when it comes to storylines like this.
Mm-hmm.
They just infuriate me. Him Miz, those types of storylines, especially in the PG era WWE, where the men are like scared little dogs that can't do anything, and they just have to take it, so it's annoying.
Yeah. And fair enough. I mean, hey, that's the fun of this whole thing, right? You get the chance to get invested, and that's what you're doing. You're getting invested in this, and that's really awesome. I sometimes I got to think a little bit differently, and that's okay. And once again, I just think that Aleister Black is going to be a great champion, but I'm not sure if it's going to be this Sunday. I just don't know it. So you're picking Aleister Black, right?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and pick Cien Almas. I'm just going to do it. I don't necessarily want it to happen, but I'm just going to do it. Let's put it on the record books. And
I'm blaming you next week if this does happen. you put out that bad juju.
Sorry. Hey, they're going to be in New Orleans anyway. There's enough of that going around anyway. So.
Very true.
But anyway, well, there you go. That is our entire NXT TakeOver New Orleans card for you guys. We predicted all the matches here. And, of course, once again, I'll remind you again, Saturday night following that show, we are hoping to record that episode of our NXT TakeOver review show and get you guys all into what we think about the results of the show, give you all the excitement, everything that takes place that we have not been yet privy to know, and be, of course, once again, all excited about it and talking to you right after it happens. So make sure you check that out Sunday morning. The best way to get that, of course, once again, I'll say it again, make sure you go to W2Mnet.com. If you go there, you can find it. Also, if you want, whatever podcasting platform you use, whether it be iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button over at the W2M Network. That'll get you this show and all the other great shows we'll be doing WrestleMania weekend. Of course, we'll be doing a WrestleMania preview. A review, excuse me. Preview will be happening on Wrestling to the Max. Go check that out. But the review will be Sunday night, and it's going to be a blast. Trust me. So Monday morning, be looking forward to that. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. And, of course, me and Brandon will be back on Monday night to give you that Monday Night Raw review. Of course, that's the biggest Raw of the entire year, Brandon. I can't wait to talk about that one.
It's the chaos.
It's going to rain down upon us, man. What if chaos actually showed up to that?
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Please no, because they'll get buried.
Exactly. Anybody from New Japan going to
Stay
Monday Night
away.
Raw.
Well, except Shinsuke and AJ.
Yeah, but we're still not guaranteed that Shinsuke is even going to go over in that match. So
true.
But anyway, yes, this is just so much fun. We can't wait till WrestleMania weekend. It's really here, but we can't really wait to see all that does take place WrestleMania weekend. So once again, go find us at W2Mnet.com. Go subscribe, rate, and review at the W2M Network. And, of course, our friends over at 411mania.com and LastOneProWrestling.com. Go give them love as well. But yeah, Brandon, until next time, man, I'm excited about this, and I can't wait to review the show with you. But until then, we will catch everybody else down the road.